Hey, Reg, TJ here. Just want to catch up on old times, buddy.
Just listen. Can't wait to listen to you, Tommy. I've, won't really forget the times that we played together, and I don't ever really remember you missing a start. And I also remember about you that if I ever played against you, I was going to look for a breaking ball because the first pitch that you threw of every game was a curveball.
Every game except one, and I threw a fastball. Look back at me like this, like, what did you do? But
I really enjoyed playing with you. You were about as professional as a guy could be. Just a great pitcher and competitor on the mound. And I guess the most important thing that I think people should probably take out of that is the art of pitching is gone. Guys like you and Kenny Holtzman, even Bob Gibson and the legendary Greg Maddux, all of the guys mostly in that era, except for Tiant, Steve Hargan, McDowell, and guys that threw 95 plus, were always hard. But most of the pitchers, whether it was Lolich or Jimmy Cott and the guys that, although Jim Cott threw hard at one time, you threw hard at one time, 93, 94. But when it got to the point where you had 10, 12 years in the game, changing speeds up to keep the barrel away from what I call it, the pay zone.
Right.
Of being able to keep the hitter off stride. And you could throw a 91 mile an hour fastball and then turn around and throw an 87 mile an hour fastball with the same look. And the guy would hit roll over a fastball and top it and run down the first base line, cursing and swearing, and you'd wind up with your glove over your mouth because you're laughing. But the art of pitching is gone. I remember of you was the great ability you had to pitch.
And you have guys sitting up there with computers telling the pitchers what to throw the second time through the order and that. I wouldn't have some guy tell me how to pitch. Or I'd stick a dagger in my neck before I'd do that.
Yeah, I understand. Your game was your game. And there were times when you went out there at your most effective pitch may have been a curveball or a sinker or a runner to run back in on lefties or run away from righties, but it ain't working that day. And so what you were using before wouldn't work that day, so you had to change and adjust on the fly.
Exactly. Wanted to get into here and just talk a little bit about something that I see all the time on Facebook and all that is when I asked you to take Travis out to throw out the first pitch. I was starting that night against the Brewers at Yankee Stadium, and George wanted him to throw out the first pitch. And he was 2.5 years old. I see that all the time, and I think of that. I know that night I had to go out and pitch that first inning. And I was on the bench crying like a baby watching you hold him because I wanted to be there, but I couldn't. And that's why I asked my good friend Reggie Jackson to be the father that night.
Well, it was an honor for me, Tommy. You and your significant other were there, and I can remember us having a great bond, and I always loved the kids that you had that came around, little towheads, running in around the clubhouse, and so cute and so nice and gracious. I had one child there, and my daughter Kimberly, and so having that experience of having a child is so very, very important and so wonderful of a blessing. And really for a guy that was your teammate and great friend, and that was great friends with your significant other as well, to ask me to do such a wonderful honor, I really did feel privileged. And since that day, Travis John and Reggie Jackson have a bond there that's very special and always will be.
Trav's had some hard times, but he's worked himself out. You know, that's life is like that. Hey,
yeah,
not every game you pitch is a shutout. So
that's right.
You got to dig down and get yourself dirty and go for it.
Yeah, I've got some relationships, some wonderful relationships in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. Rick Henry, car dealer, is a very, very close friend of mine. And I've also got a dealership that's in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we're having a grand opening on April the 27th. We've been open since January the 1st, 2022. And we're doing very well. We've got a Honda automobile store there, Tommy, that's 20. Looking forward to going over there on the 24th and hang out, get ready for our grand opening, formal grand opening on the 27th of this month.
Oh, I remember in the 1977 World Series, you hit a home run off me in Game 2 at Dodger Stadium. And somebody came in and said something, and we had a relatively large lead. And I think the count on you was like 3-1. And I said, yes. Look, he had me. I was not going to walk him, so I threw pitches down the middle of the plate if I could do it. And you end up hitting that home run. Then we go to Yankee Stadium, and you hit the 3 home runs, one off Newton and one off
Sosa.
Was off Charlie Huff and Reggie. I can tell you, I've never hit up. People ask me about it, and I said, no, Reggie did what he was supposed to do, and I was doing what I was supposed to do, and who's going to win? And it's just, I think that people forget what you brought to the game, and I know I don't, because everybody wanted to say, oh, Reggie's this, and no, Reggie's that. I said, I'm pitching on the mound, and I look back in right field. I see Reggie Jackson playing right field. I know he is going to give me everything he's got to try and win the ball game. Exactly. And that's all you can ask for your players. It was quite a ball club we had.
Yes, I had a guy ask me one time, or not even one time, but just a few months ago in spring training, about how would I like to face Justin Verlander. And I said, well, I'm sure I would enjoy it. And he had a virtual goggles, a helmet that I could put on, and it would show up around me and it had Verlander pitching. And, I stood in the batter's box and, all virtual. And they wanted me to point to where the strike zone was or where I saw the ball. And, and it was him on the mound and throwing, et cetera. And so I probably did it for 3 or 4 minutes, and I enjoyed it. And after I took the glasses and the goggles and everything off, I said, really what I think you would need is for a guy to go directly from watching this to live batting practice, to see how it translated the strike zone in real life from virtual. And so they liked it, et cetera. And he said, well, we feel this is the way that you can prepare, that hitters and young players can prepare to face Justin Verlander. I said, well, you're missing something. I said, tell me what inning the game is in. Tell me the score. Tell me who's on base. Tell me where the base runners are. Because if it's in the 9th inning and there's a 1-run lead or a 2-run lead or a 3-run lead, and I'm the hitter, and there's 2 men on, first and second, Verlander still has a base open. Third base is open.
That's right.
And if there's 2 outs and I'm the difference between victory and loss, and there's a guy hitting behind me in the on-deck circle he'd rather pitch to, I'm not going to get a chance to hit. I said, so there's so many variables. If the score is 7-3 and there's two guys on and I hit a 3-run homer at 7-6, I'm going to get something to hit.
Yeah.
But invariably, there's so many variables that you have to take a look into. How hard is he throwing here in the ninth inning? Who's warming up in the bullpen? What have I been doing the last few games? What have I done this particular game against him? Who's hitting behind me? You know, it's blah, 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 but on and on to be able to understand all of the information that goes into that particular problem at that particular time, where I'm the difference between win and loss. So the virtual thing is nice, but I need all the variables around that to make a difference. He probably doesn't pitch to me if the game is on the line. I might see one strike because he's got a hitter behind me that he'd much rather pitch.
That's how you pitch. You know, and nowadays, I don't know, analytics, I don't think they let you pitch like you were talking. You pitch to the score, the base run, what part of the game, is it early, is it late? It just, I don't know. It's just now rear up, show them your hiney, and throw it as hard as you can throw.
That's exactly right. And really, I think that the teams that incorporate the analytics with the baseball knowledge and the baseball experience are going to leapfrog ahead here now. Where so many of the teams now are all analytics. Analytics is not the foundation of the game. It's an augmentation. It's an assist. It's a helper. You can tell me some things that are very important when you see them analytically into a habit that people are able to pick up because of what you see analytically. I may need to change that, or I could also improve myself. If you say, Reggie, you're striking out 28 times in the last 75 at bats because you're swinging at balls. The ball is not a strike. So if you just take that pitch, and so those are the things where the analytics help, but recognize that analytics don't fit Tommy John. Tommy John pitched 23 seasons. How many seasons you pitched?
26.
Tommy John pitched 26 seasons. There's very few players that fall into who he is. He won 288 games. There are very few pitchers that fall into that arena. So don't try to figure him out. He's got the game figured out pretty dang well. So trust him, and at times just get out of his way.
When you went into the Hall of Fame, your mom and dad were there, right?
Yes.
That had to be. I never met your mom and never met your father, but that had to be outstanding, super for you. I don't know if I could have given my acceptance speech because I would have been crying. Because my dad was my pitching coach growing up. He was my agent. In fact, when I signed with Cleveland, they offered me $35,000. My dad said, let's sit on it. So we go to the hotel and he says, wow, $35,000. He said, I'm going to get more for you. Okay. So the next day we go down, and Gabe Paul and Bob Kennedy were the ones doing the negotiating with Cleveland. And they said, what did you think? My dad says, well, if you give us 40, and he never got 1,000 out. And Gabe Paul was across the table and stuck his hand out and he said, it's a deal.
There you go.
That's who I undersold you.
No, I understand, man. That's great stuff. My dad was my coach, and my dad was also my agent. Even when I signed with Charlie Finley, I did have a guy do my contract when I signed with the Yankees, but my father was the guy that traveled with me to New York to get the deal done with Steinbrenner, and because the Dodgers came in late, and I wanted to play for the Dodgers. The Dodgers were all right-handed, with Baker and Say and Lopes and Garvey and Yeager and all the right-hand hitters, and Reggie was a switch hitter, Reggie Smith. But I would have had a field day with all the right-hand pitching. I was going to stay in California. I was in Oakland, and I really wanted to stay there. But we shook Steinbrenner's hand, and they offered more money than George. Montreal did, and so did the Padres. But the place where I really wanted to go, and I thought the best fit for me was L.A., but L.A. didn't get in. Campanis had Maury Wills call me and offered $3 million, and it was about $300,000 more, which was a lot, obviously a bucket of money at that time. But my dad said, son, you've shaken George Steinbrenner's hand, and we're not breaking that handshake. So
if you hear there's dog barking, they're going to be meat tonight on the table.
not in a position really to bring it up, but they just let some guys into the Hall of Fame. And I shouldn't say let some guys in. They just put some guys in that belong in, certainly Jim Cott, and then the great Tony Oliva. Jimmy Cott won 283 games. Jimmy Cott was probably as good a hitter as a lot of the players in the league. I remember going to Chicago and Jim Cott hit cleanup. I just put my boss on hold there. Jim Crane of the Astros just called me. I told him I was talking to Tommy John. I'll get right back. But I wanted to say, Tommy, I didn't finish there. I wanted to say that, you belong in the Hall of Fame as well. And there are several other players, whether it be Dale Murphy or the big tall hitter with the Atlanta Braves. Freddie McGriff belongs in the Hall of Fame, and it's kind of sad that some of the greats that belong in the Hall of Fame are not there. And I want to let you know that I believe that you should be in the Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. Maybe someday, when I signed to go, and my mom and dad put me on the airplane to fly to that beautiful resort city in Iowa called Dubuque, Iowa. My dad said, Tom, no matter what you do in this game, you will forever be Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana. If I get fame, I will be Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana. Although now I may be living in Sarasota, Florida, but I'm from Terre Haute, Indiana. The most money my dad ever made was $4.25 an hour.
Wow.
But, I had all the sporting equipment I wanted. And I had new clothes every year to go to school. And but baseball did some things for me that never in my life would I have even thought about. And
I understand, buddy. I certainly understand.
But no, George Steinbrenner was a good owner. What was Charlie Finley like? Like George?
Charlie Finley was similar to George. He didn't have the money that Charlie had. He didn't have the money that George had. But what I'll say for Charlie Finley is that he knew baseball. He knew baseball very well, and he hired a few people, and he tried to talk to everybody that he knew about the game. But I say that part of the greatness of the Oakland A's organization and the greatness of the personnel that were there, Charlie Finley was the guy that put a lot of that organization together and was very involved in the quality of the player that he signed in building that franchise to, at the time, was the best franchise in all of baseball, with the leanest amount of people in the organization, or the smallest number of people that worked there, with scouts and staff and all that kind of thing. But the difference between Charlie Finley and most owners.
If he knew baseball, that's something George didn't.
George didn't understand that if he had the best team, he always thought that we should win every game.
One of the one of the reasons I signed with the Yankees, there was a guy that helped sign me. His name Al Rosen. We fell in love with him. He was a good guy. Plus, you got to play in New York, and with all those fans screaming and yelling at you and all that, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing for the Dodgers equally.
Yeah. No, I agree. I understand. Yeah, I always enjoyed the Dodger franchise. I always thought they were classy. And the thing I liked about them is they always had good pitching. They always had good pitching. I remember you pitching against us in the World Series, and then the next year you pitched for us in the World Series when we beat the Dodgers. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
And then you went off to California.
Yes.
And your first game back in Yankee Stadium, you hit a home run?
Yes, off Guidry.
Guidry.
Yes.
They didn't call you Mr. October for nothing. You had a way of getting the crowd to get activated.
There you go. Yeah.
But anyway, I just want to thank you. And maybe someday we will be able to rub elbows. And I thanks for coming on and being on the podcast, Rubbing Elbows with Tommy John. And thank you much, my friend. God bless you. And I'll see you down the road.
Always a pleasure, Tommy. I'm glad to have seen you. The podcast and a lot of the TV stuff doesn't interest me anymore. At the same time, I have big interest in people that I know and care for and respect, and the relationships of the past. So for me, it really wouldn't matter what you were doing. If you'd asked me to do something or be somewhere, do a small thing like this for you, it's just a pleasure for me to see you, talk to you, associate with you again. And since I've got your phone number now, it'll be easy for me to run you down and see how the heck you're doing. And I'll look forward to that.
Okay. Thank you, Reg. Appreciate it.
All right, my friend. You have a great day, TJ. All right, buddy. Bye-bye.